Hey everybody, this is Ben, and here's something that I've never really done before. I'm going to take a trip down memory lane and watch the BendyPenguin65 saga. This is a strong contender for the weirdest thing I've ever made. This is probably my most bizarre creation, but if you've seen my top 10 favorite YouTube memories, you'll also know it's one of the ones that I'm most proud of. Because, like, I had a lot of fun making this, as weird and stupid as it is, and as bizarre as it feels to look back on it so many years later. I am quite proud of this one. I quite enjoyed making this. There are so many ways that I could have improved it looking back, but you know, it is quite fun to look back on. It brings back memories of a happier time. But anyway, I thought it might be fun to look back on it and give a sort of director's commentary. So, if you've seen the top 10 favorite YouTube memories video that I posted like last year, I think it was, I did give a little backstory as to where the idea for this little mini-series came from. But if you've not actually seen the top 10 favorite YouTube memories, then I'll give you an explanation. My YouTube username used to be BendyPenguin64, and someone left a comment on one of my videos saying, "Oh, what happened to the other 63 Bendy Penguins?" And as a joke, I actually replied to that comment, and I gave this really crazy backstory as to like how my channel name came to be. And there was like this backstory with a mad scientist and penguin clones, and after I wrote the comment and replied, I read it back and I thought, you know what, this joke that I've put together actually has potential to be turned into something serious. Like, so yeah, the BendyPenguin65 saga started as a joke. It was never actually going to be made. I just made up the most ridiculous backstory I could think of for my YouTube channel, and after I'd done it, I thought, oh, you know what, I actually quite like this idea. So I started filming a little while after that, and I turned it into like a proper mini-series. And in case anyone's wondering, I did not plan out the entire story like from beginning to end before I started filming. Like, every professional writer will tell you that you're supposed to plan everything out before you actually start filling in the details. You need to know what you're going to write about. You need to know the beginning, middle, and end of your story before you start adding the dialogue and making up the characters and all that stuff. I don't work like that. When I'm writing, I like to think of jokes and different scenes first, and then write a story around them to link them all together. So, yeah, don't do what I do. I am not what a writer should be. A professional writer will tell you that's not the way to do it. And I can actually say right now, I did write myself into a couple of corners while I was working on this, and I'll point those out as we go along. There were a couple of occasions where I thought, okay, I really should have planned this out in more detail, because now I've written myself into a corner and I don't know how to get out of it. You know, because sorry, I lost my train of thought. Because, yeah, I was making it all up as I went along, and, you know, when that happens, you don't always plan for things, and that can lead to plot holes, and I'm pretty sure that there are a couple of plot holes in here. And this bit right here, this warning about BendyPenguin65, this is actually, like, this is almost an exact reading of that original comment that I wrote where I came up with the backstory. Like, I did tweak it a little bit for this video, but this little speech at the end of the first episode is pretty much the comment that I wrote. This is the backstory that I first came up with before I started filming. So, yeah, I forgot how long this series was. Like, when I first decided that I was going to do commentary, I thought, oh, okay, this will only be like a 15-minute jobby or something. I didn't realize that when combined, all of the episodes make up about 25 minutes. So I guess I put a little bit more thought into this series than I originally suspected. So, yeah, and I have to say now, I can't act at all. Like, I'm sure that I'm going to be cringing a little bit as I'm watching this, but I can't act. Anyone who's known me for a long time will vouch for that. So, it's kind of regrettable that I was the only person working on this. Like, if I had a budget or anything, I would have hired actors to help me out along the way, because, like, I should not be doing all this stuff on my own. Like, something else, Bendy Penguin 64 and 27, like, all of the penguin voices, I swear they change every so often. Like, they don't stay consistently at the same tempo, or, well, not tempo, but the same pitch or anything. Like, they get lower, like, it's not lower, I can't speak. They get deeper and higher and stuff like that. Like, the voices change just because I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to voice acting. And this bit right here at the start of episode 2, at the time, I was going through a bit of an amiibo craze, and to be honest, I think everyone was. This was back in 2015, when amiibos first came out, because, I think it was 2014, like the end of 2014, when amiibos first came out, and at the time, they were like collector's items. They were really, really popular, and some people were willing to spend a lot of money on them. And so yeah, I thought, let's take this opportunity to show off my amiibo collection, and those were literally the only few that I had just then. Like, wait, how many did I show just then? I think it was 2. It was Yoshi and Bowser. I don't remember if I had any others at the time. And I'm not actually sure, is that an exact match up? I don't know. Did BendyPenguin64 and 65's voices actually sound the same just then? I don't know, because it's supposed to be an exact match, but I don't know. Like I said, my voice acting's pretty terrible.
Well, maybe it was one of the other clones.
BendyPenguin65 is the only one who's
and coming up here, we're about to meet another iconic character from the series. Well, iconic is not the right word. And I have to say now, I don't remember exactly when in the series, but at some point the puppetry just kind of stops. Like, for the first couple of episodes, I really did give it my all to try and, you know, make the character interactions a little bit more believable. Well, oh, right there, I just saw that. There's my finger back there. You can clearly see me moving that. That's pretty terrible. I forgot that that was there. But yeah, at some point in the series, I think it might be episode 3, the puppetry just kind of stopped. For the first couple of episodes, I wanted to give some kind of illusion that the penguins were alive. And it was in episode 3 that I thought, you know what, doing puppetry and making them move is just really tedious and boring. So I decided, no, I'm not going to bother with that. From this point on, whenever the penguins are talking, they're sitting on the other side of the room, and they're just going to sit completely still. Or, just so that the puppetry is a bit easier, I'll have the penguins in shot with me and I'm holding them, so, you know, it looks like the penguins are moving on their own, but no, that's not true at all. And this bit right here, where BendyPenguin67 explains his backstory, I do kind of regret that I didn't have the budget or the time to actually film this backstory that he's going on about, because I think that would have been quite cool. Because, to be honest, after I finished the BendyPenguin65 saga, I did have a couple of ideas for, like, follow-ups, and I'm actually going to list them now, because I don't think I've ever talked about this. Like, one of them would have been, like, a prequel where, you know, just that scene where BendyPenguin27 explains his fight right there before this is taking place. I was going to do another one, which would be like a sequel, where Parallel Ben's loan sharks somehow managed to find their way to this universe, and like he's hunting them down, and it was going to be called Shark Attack. That was actually what it was going to be called. I came up with the idea for it, but I never actually found the time to write or anything like that. So Shark Attack, the sequel to this, never became a thing. It was an idea that I had knocking about. And another thing that I thought of was, and this was legit, I was going to make a fully fledged movie. I actually alluded to this in my top 10 favourite YouTube memories, saying that I had an idea for a movie that would have been a follow-up to this. And I'm going to just explain the plot now. It's never going to happen. I don't think it's ever going to happen. But the idea was that, like, at some point after the BendyPenguin65 saga, the clones start getting kidnapped or something like that by some kind of mysterious stranger, And it turns out that the mysterious stranger is the mad scientist who created them. It turns out that he survived the fire that caused the lab to burn down, but it left him horribly disfigured. Because of that, his girlfriend left him, so he went even crazier, and then he went on a quest to capture all of the penguin clones and kill them for, like, revenge. And Parallel Ben, and Casey the Goomba all would have been involved, and they would have decided, nah, this mission's too dangerous for us to take on alone. We need some help. So Ben would have actually tracked down the original penguin that everyone was cloned from, and he would have acted as a mentor for the rest of the penguins, and he would, like, train them for like combat. And then there was going to be, like, this slow motion scene with all the penguin clones that were left over, and Ben and Parallel Ben and Casey the Goomba, like a slow motion, all of them walking down the street towards the mad scientist lab so that they could confront him. Kind of like the opening to Reservoir Dogs. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that movie, or like any other movie where people are walking in slow motion, because that's mandatory. If I were to ever make a movie, I would want to have a scene where all of the main characters are walking in slow motion to some kind of epic song in the background. And the movie would have ended with the mad scientist falling off a ledge and landing on a torture device that he was going to use to kill the Bendy penguins. And then, like, in an ironic death, it would have killed him. And yeah, that was the basic idea, was that the mad scientist comes back, and like, the Bendy penguins are being kidnapped by him, and they have to take him out. It's never going to happen, I don't think, but that was the idea that I had for the movie. I don't think it's ever going to happen, but there you go. That it's officially been announced. That was an idea that I had as a follow-up to this, well, 2 follow-ups to this that never happened. But anyway, so yeah, that's just me explaining that. I lost my train of thought. I keep losing my train of thought while I'm listening to this, because I'm listening to my own voice as well. It's kind of like jamming my speech. But yeah, 2 follow-ups that never happened. And at the start of episode 3, that bit that was a couple minutes ago, where I'm talking to BendyPenguin65, we mentioned Cave Story. I don't know why I chose to include that. Like, there's a couple of jokes and stuff in the BendyPenguin65 saga that don't really make sense to anyone except me, like inside jokes. And there are some pop culture references in there that were dated even at the time. And right at the start of this one, we're talking about Cave Story and Teen Titans Go. At the time that I made this, I was binge watching a lot of Teen Titans Go, because I'm going to be honest, I actually think that show's a bit underrated. I never watched the original Teen Titans, so I actually kind of like Teen Titans Go because I don't have anything to compare it to. And yeah, so I included that in there just as an inside joke. And then he mentions Cave Story, how I needed a walkthrough to get out of the first room. Again, that's an inside joke that only I'm going to understand, because I've never talked about that on YouTube. But yeah, for clarification, the first time I ever played Cave Story, I couldn't figure out how to get out of the first room because the controls for opening doors are, like, really stupid. You press down instead of up on the controller, so I had to use a walkthrough. But that's an inside joke that no one's going to get, but there you go, it's now been explained. And right there, what he says about pointing out problems in your story doesn't fix them. That's actually something that I have to admit to. I enjoy lampshading when I'm writing fiction and telling stories. Like, lampshading, for anyone who doesn't know, is where you acknowledge a problem in your story without actually fixing it. You know, it's like, you know, you've admitted that an element of the plot doesn't work. You're not doing anything to resolve it, you're just admitting it. You know, that's lampshading, and I actually quite enjoy that in fiction. I find it funny, but it's not for everyone, so I don't think that joke is going to land for all viewers. And right here we get an introduction to Parallel Ben. Now, I'm going to be honest, Parallel Ben was actually not necessarily a rip-off, but he was inspired by another YouTuber. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Storm Dane, but he is a video game reviewer. Well, he's sort of a reviewer. Like, some of his reviews are very off-topic, so he himself doesn't really call his videos reviews. And at one point, I think this was in 2010, I think it was, he started turning his reviews into like story arcs, like he had characters in them, and like he would acknowledge previous reviews and stuff like that. And one of the characters was someone called Future Storm. It was like himself from the future. And I really enjoyed watching those reviews, and I thought, wow, so this is actually quite a good idea. He's got another version of himself in here that he talks to, that he has conversations with. That's quite clever. And I took inspiration from that, and I created Parallel Ben. So he's not necessarily a rip-off, because he's not a future version of me. He's me from a parallel universe. And so yeah, I wouldn't call it stealing an idea, but that is where he came from. He was inspired by the work of another YouTuber. And I included a lot of crazy science mumbo jumbo from BendyPenguin67 in this series as well. I'm going to be honest, I'm not a scientist. I don't know what most of the words mean that I use whenever BendyPenguin27 is going on one of his like scientific discussions or whatever. But yeah, I thought it'd be funny.
I don't think that exists in this universe. Nintendo haven't
And
published a game
this bit right here, well, coming up later rather, at the end of this episode, this part of the story between episodes 4 and 5, that's what I'm trying to say, between episodes 4 and 5, this is one instance where I wrote myself into a corner, because, like I said before, I was making all of this up as I went along. I didn't plan everything out. I just wrote each episode individually. Like, after I finished episode 3, then I'd start thinking, right, okay, what happens in episode 4? Like that. I didn't plan them all out before I started. I took them one at a time. And so, I wrote episode 3 and decided, okay, they're going to end up in a parallel universe, and episode 4 is like them getting used to everything. And then I had to think, right, okay, so they're in this parallel universe. How did they get out of it? And I hadn't planned that far ahead. And that's exactly why at the end of this episode, the narrator, and this is just a complete joke. I included the narrator for no reason other than just for the lols of it. It's like, oh, this came out of nowhere. It's supposed to be absurd and you're supposed to laugh at it. But right there he says, whenever that is. That's because I genuinely didn't know when the next episode was going to come out, because I knew that I wanted them in a parallel universe, but I didn't know how they were going to get out of it. I hadn't planned it, so I thought, right, okay, I'll release that episode. Now, how exactly did they get out of there? I don't know, so I can't promise when the next episode's coming out. And I spent a little bit of time brainstorming, thinking, how do they get out of it? And then I came up with the idea, what if they had some kind of object with them that wasn't supposed to exist in that universe? And I thought, okay, so what couldn't exist? And I thought, oh, maybe I had an earlier joke that said that Nintendo went bankrupt, so maybe it's my DSi XL or whatever. You know, that wouldn't exist in this universe if Nintendo weren't around to make it. So I thought, okay, that's good. That joke has actually really worked in my favour, so this makes sense. I'm not just making this up anymore, that this does work. And I thought, right, okay, so I've got my DSi with me, so how do I work that into the story? And then I thought, well, hang on a minute. What if I started doing Plants vs. Zombies content? Because I'm going to be honest, for anyone who doesn't know, after episode 4 came out, I started doing bonus videos for Let's Play Plants vs. Zombies, and this was years after Plants vs. Zombies, the original Let's Play, ended. I started doing bonus videos, and the main reason why I did it was because Plants vs. Zombies is my most popular series, and I wanted to capitalize on views. That is the main reason why I did it. I wanted to capitalize on that, and I thought maybe if I do Plants vs. Zombies stuff, you know, I'll get more views, because it's always been a big dream of mine to get famous on YouTube, and I thought that was the only way that it would work with Plants vs. Zombies. And I decided, well, hang on a minute, maybe I can tie that Plants vs Zombies content into the BendyPenguin65 saga. So then I started making Plants vs Zombies bonus videos, and I said, hey guys, I'm trapped in a parallel universe, but I can still upload videos, so here you go. I happen to have my DSi with me, so I'm going to do this. And that was actually a very significant moment for my YouTube channel, because that was the point where my channel sort of turned into an extended universe, I guess you could call it. So, like, the Let's Plays and the comedy sketches were no longer separate. Sometimes in Let's Plays, I acknowledge the comedy sketches I've done, like the BendyPenguin65 saga. So it's like my channel now is like a full-on, fully-fledged universe. It's all shared. The characters from the comedy sketches and the characters from the Let's Plays all sort of blend together into like one world. It's kind of weird, but I'm quite proud of that. I think that's probably the craziest idea I've ever come up with, and I think it's one of my better ideas, to be honest.
Something doesn't feel right.
So, yeah, there you go. Plants vs Zombies. I started doing it because I wanted to try and like use it to get famous on YouTube again, like I used to be. Very, very briefly, I had 15 minutes of fame in 2011, and I thought, let's tie it into the BendyPenguin65 saga. And in doing so, it turned my YouTube channel into a shared universe. And I still kept posting Plants vs Zombies even after the BendyPenguin65 saga finished, because I thought, you know, I've done these bonus videos, I've started them, I'll finish them. So at this point, I did manage to write myself out of that corner and get them back in the normal universe. But, you know, again, I lampshaded it. I acknowledge this is a Deus Ex Machina. For anyone who doesn't know what that means, it's a phrase that comes up in fiction a lot nowadays. Deus Ex Machina, it means that something comes out of nowhere and saves the day. And I did actually use that phrase in here, like when BendyPenguin67 is talking about the wormhole, he says this is a Deus Ex Machina. It literally came out of nowhere. There was no build up to this, it just appeared and saved the day. And this bit right here, I can't believe I've included this. I can't believe that I actually thought that was a good idea. At the time, there was this viral image of a dress circulating on the internet. Like, everybody who looked at it saw something different, because apparently, depending on your particular vision and the lighting of the room or something like that, some people saw one combination of colours and other people saw a different one. That meme was dated at the time that I made this. This was way out of the loop or whatever. This was ages after it came out, so it wasn't relevant anymore at all. I thought, nah, I need some kind of opening for this. I'm just going to do this for the lols of it. And by the way, what I said in that episode right there, where I said, I see white and gold, or was it blue and gold? It was blue and gold, yeah. I saw something different to everyone else. I genuinely mean that. Like, everyone saw white and gold or blue and black. I saw blue and gold. I was the only person in the world that saw a combination of the two. And I wasn't making that up for the video. There is genuinely something wrong with my eyesight, which you all know because I wear glasses. And this ending, I'm not sure whether, like, looking back at it, I'm not sure whether I'm happy or unhappy with it, because BendyPenguin65 dies in the most, like, unimpressive way. He's had so much build-up. He's had 6 episodes worth of build-up. This is the grand finale. This should have been like a Kill Bill sword fight or something. And instead, he just gets shot right away. I am quite happy that it ties back to an earlier joke, because in the very first episode I said, oh, you can't just go to Tesco and buy a gun. You know, you're not allowed to do that. In Parallel Ben's universe, he says, no, you can do that. In my universe, you can go to Tesco and buy a gun. I'm quite happy with the comedy of this moment. I think that this ending is actually kind of funny. I think it is. I was quite happy with that. I'm not sure how happy I am with the way it wraps up the story. I think it's a funny ending, but I'm not sure if it would really satisfy a lot of people to see the villain of the story die that easily. I mean, even looking back, I'm not sure how much I like that ending. You know, there's plenty of stuff wrong with this whole idea, but I am very proud of the BendyPenguin65 saga. It was a lot of fun to make. You know, I can't act at all. And it's probably obvious watching some elements of it, but I record a lot of stuff in one take. I was very impatient when acting on the BendyPenguin65 saga. On many occasions, like, you know, usually when you're recording stuff for like major Hollywood films, you do several takes to make sure that your lines are all perfect. For me, I would record a line and say, right, I didn't screw up any words, let's just go with that, because I was very impatient. So yeah, my acting's not great. Production on this series was very, very rushed, so it's not perfect at all. If I were to make this again, I would take things slower, make sure it was perfect, but, you know, what we ended up with, I'm quite happy with it. It's a dumb project, but it's one of my favourites.